Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
The U.S. approves the nation's first lab-grown meat, chicken made from animal cells. This is, again, a further step in the direction that many of us do not want to see. Of course, there's a whole movement towards this lab-grown meat and crickets and eating bugs and all of this. This is really disgusting in my mind. They're playing God, but again, you can give me your opinion after you see what they're doing. For the first time, U.S. regulators on Wednesday approved the sale of chicken made from animal cells, allowing 2 California companies to offer lab-grown meat to the nation's restaurant tables and eventually supermarket shelves. Now, one problem that I see with lab-grown is that it can be grown in a lab, and they can put whatever the heck they want. Now, many people already know that processed foods like mac and cheese and boxed dinners and things like that are not good for you. GMOs are not good for you. There's a lot of things that are not good for you. In fact, they see that the people that eat essentially the very expensive organic foods, they have less health issues than those that eat processed foods. In fact, I believe it's the island of the one where essentially they pushed the natives off of the Marshall Atolls, or a lot of the people that basically went through the U.S. experiment of living where they did all of the nuclear bombs. They put them on a 1 mile, less than a mile long island that is essentially a trash island, 12,000 inhabitants. It's still a problem to this day. These people, all they can access is this processed food. And what they have found is that processed food, the canned food, the certain food that they had is super, super cheap, but it's also super, super bad for them. Now, I wonder what they'll be able to do with lab-grown meat and what they'll be able to actually put in it. As far as people with crazy theories, this is only going to get crazier from here. It says the Agricultural Department gave the green light to Upside Foods and Good Meat. They literally named it Upside Foods and Good Meat, firms that had been racing to be the first in the U.S. to sell meat and doesn't come from slaughtered animals. What's now being referred to as cell-cultivated or cultured meat as it emerges from the laboratory and arrives on dinner plates. It says the move launches a new era of meat production aimed at eliminating harm to animals and drastically reducing the environmental impacts of grazing, growing feed for animals, and animal waste. Again, the methane from cows and all of that, right? Well, again, in theory, to have something like this, if it tasted exactly like meat and it was healthy, this would be something that wouldn't be exactly a bad thing. But many of us believe that there is a ulterior motive to all of these things. Just think about what they could do with this. They can basically create it out of nothing, and they can add whatever they want. What do you guys think? Let me know. Tonight we're going to talk about how we just put a THAAD system on China's doorstep, and of course how Russia and everything else, they're threatening to basically put their nukes on battle readiness. So we'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show. This is going to be a quick one, so don't blink. It will be a crazy one. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. What is going on, guys? It's To Make A Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Remember, tonight's show has a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. All you have to do is go to tonight's website, marfooglenews.com, and tonight's thumbnail, Battle Ready. We are deploying THAAD on China's doorstep, an unstoppable arms race. Once you click on that, you will find a source for everything that we share here. Now, of course, if we are referencing a tweet or a video or anything else, it is also going to be over there as well. That way, you have access to our sources. We don't just make up things. Someone the other day was saying, oh, well, there was never an ice cable that was cut by Alaska. Of course, I point you guys to the website every time. Make sure to go check our sources. You can go check for with the Alaska Public Media themselves. The state government put that out. Again, we didn't. So we don't just make those kind of things up. We're not going off of hearsay unless we clarify so. If it's an anonymous source, which we rarely use, we will make sure to let you know that that's exactly where it comes from. Otherwise, there is an absolute source for everything we share here. So make sure to go over there. You'll find all sorts of great stuff, and it's all archived, and it's, of course, you can go to the search bar, and you can search back on previous shows. You go up to the right-hand corner to the magnifying glass. You can actually search any kind of subject, whether it be Bigfoot or CERN, and it will pull up all of the previous shows that we have talked about that. Then you can click on those shows, and then you can actually look at the sources we used for them and go back in time. You can actually use it for research purposes or for other channels using it for their videos. Let me know. Again, use it as much as you can. And then, of course, we have overflow and web content. This is all the stuff that did not fit into the show today, so make sure to go down there and check it out. Otherwise, there's some stuff down there that would get you in a fight if you talked about it at the water cooler or at the bar. So make sure to go and check those out. All right, let's bring my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Remember also to drop an M in the chat for all of our wonderful mods. We have had, of course, Bones has been here a lot lately. Thank you so much, Bones, in your busy schedule coming to make it peaceful here. Chance, Paladin, author over on Amazon. CJ Blaze has been popping by. Gem, thank you so much. Jammer1, Lisa R. Hall, again, really busy, and thank you for popping by when you can. Rip Curl Readiness has been here a lot. Thank you, Rip. And then RGL Harris, wonderful woman. Make sure to go check out all of their channels. Ilea has been here almost every single night. Thank you so much, Ilea. And then Trinity Red or Blue Pill, hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here, great creator, and of course, Wages World. So make sure to go check them out. They are all down there in the marfooglenews.com/friends. So first ever U.S. bomber landing in Sweden. So this is a big deal because obviously Sweden, just up until a year and a half ago, was completely neutral and stayed out of pretty much everything. But apparently, two Air Force B-1B Lancer supersonic strategic bombers from the 7th Bomb Wing, Dias Air Force Base, Texas, landed at Luleå Kalix Air Base, Sweden, for the first time in history, June 19th, 2023. U.S. forces have conducted exercises and training in the Arctic region, but the landing fortifies not only the friendship between the U.S. and Sweden, but the collective defense of Europe. During a key leader event, U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Byrony Terrell, U.S. European Command Deputy Director for Strategic Plans and Policy, noted, quote, the U.S. and Sweden have a long history together in exercises and training, bilateral and multilateral security cooperation and operations, of which today is one key example. The arrival of strategic bombers in Sweden highlights U.S. and Swedish cooperation and the ability of U.S. forces to seamlessly integrate with allied and partner nations. It says the more that we can integrate forces and equipment and maneuver across Europe, the more ready we are to face security challenges now and in the future, the Brigadier General said. It says training with joint partners in allied nations forges enduring and strategic relationships necessary to confront the broad range of global challenges. So these were the bombers, and again, this is a history-making moment as far as the first time it has happened. So, of course, we are covering it. Overall picture of this, though, most of you guys are on the same page. Most of you, agree with me on the fact that obviously things aren't going a bad way. We're not trying to do this because we're trying to say the glass is half empty. This is what we believe. And if you are on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think that you might learn something from our community and from this show, just because the more that you track this stuff, the more you may actually feel the same way. But otherwise, this show is not for everybody. So I do want to warn you, there's some pretty alarming stuff here. And if you are easily anxious, if you are easily freaked out, or you stress out a lot, today or my show in general maybe not be the show for you. It's all voluntary. You don't have to watch. You can always go somewhere else. And again, there's, I think, over 2 billion channels to check out. But if you are here for this reason, this is a news channel from prepper standpoint. I believe this is happening, and I've watched this for many, many, many years. Since about 2003 is when I kind of saw things in a different light, and I don't think you can ever shut that light off. And right now, we are heading towards World War III. That's my actual opinion. That's my real opinion, and I believe it to the bottom of my heart, and I'm preparing for it in as most the responsible way I can, which is a little bit at a time and not freaking out, not, digging a hole into the ground. But right now you can see all of this setup. If you watch the show on a regular basis, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sweden and Finland joining NATO, that was a big thing in the first place, let alone now they're doing drills with them before they're even in NATO. Now, Finland has actually been put into NATO. Sweden is on its way in, but they still have Turkey giving these objections to them entering. So we'll see what ends up happening, but they basically said they were going to go in and drill with Sweden before they're even entered into it. And as we know, there's plenty of clandestine operations going on at all times, so who knows what's really going on there. And then we have Russia's vast sanctions evasion secures U.S. and European tech for weapons. Dex, do you want to cover this? This is obviously...
Absolutely. So what's happening, and this is sort of what we've thought and theorized, but they've now got it down to understanding exactly how they're doing it. But the sanctions that are preventing Russia from getting the components they need because of the sanctions, they have now found ways to basically funnel those requests and those acquisitions through China. So they're obviously buying a lot of yuan to use that to pay for it. And they're buying stuff and bringing it through China, which is not being sanctioned against this equipment. And then from there, they can bring it in to Russia. So a good example, the sanctions aren't necessarily working. I mean, they're working in some ways. There's certain things that are just difficult, like the no access to SWIFT has been a huge issue for them, but they've found ways to work around it. And in this particular way, the ability for them to get the components they need to continue building some of the military equipment, building some of the drones and other things that they keep replenishing, and the shells and stuff they're replenishing, getting all of that stuff. If they can't buy it because they're sanctioned, they've found ways around it. And this is exactly how they're doing it, is going through China.
Yep. So they're actually able to get the equipment that they're not supposed to through other means. And we knew and said this was going to happen, especially after the whole announcement of the whole no limit partnership that they have. Before we move on, I just want to quickly remind you, if you do want to protect yourself against one of the most possible events out of all of the crazy things that could happen to us, EMP and CME are 2 of the highest on the list because of the realism of an EMP and the amount of countries that are actually threatening to do it. On top of that, there is a CME, a coronal mass ejection or a Carrington level event, which is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And if the U.S. and other countries have their grids advanced enough to actually be able to withstand it. A Carrington level event does happen in intervals, and some say that we're actually overdue. The last one that happened was very bad, but the last one that happened also happened when we did not have advanced electronics that were extremely sensitive. So if you do want to protect your cars, which have, again, an average of about 160 chips that could go wrong each, then make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is very easy to put into your car, your truck, your motorcycle, your boats, your generators, whatever device you want to protect, they most likely have one for. You just hook up the red to the red part of your battery, black to black, and then the green to ground. Now, there's more advanced pieces here as well. There's units that can actually protect your home. Those you could get a electrician to put in, but once you do, you can actually protect everything plugged in within 250 feet of where it is wired in. So this is something that will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. The more people that actually have this, the less that we will be out. Again, the entire country had this, we wouldn't even have an issue. They would not be able to do anything if this was around the country. Now, they've actually been used by agencies like DHS, DOD, and now they're on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. So if you want to get yourself protected, they're not going to do it for you. And, of course, if you look at situations like Hurricane Katrina, when things got bad, what did the police do? What did the authorities do? They essentially ran to go save their own families. So don't depend on anybody else. Depend on yourself. If you want to be able to bug out or bug in and get home, then make sure to have one of these on your vehicles. Go to marfuglenews.com/EMP or use the code MARF. Again, that will save you $50 off on each device, and it will help our independent channel. All right, and then, by the way, there will only be affiliates like this help us. We are independent. Again, we depend on your guys' support and you sharing us out. More important than any affiliate, sharing us with new people that have never heard of us. But again, there will be only two affiliates today. So we're going to get through the show really, really fast and make sure that you have all of the important information. Dex, do you want to talk about Vladimir Putin vows to deploy world's most powerful nuke, Satan II, to battle service in chilling new threat to the West?
So some big words coming from him today. He was speaking at a graduation, but basically he has vowed to deploy his hypersonic Satan II nuclear-capable missile in a chilling new threat to the West. The leader said that the new generation of the Sarmat intercontinental ballistic, thought to be the world's most powerful, would soon be deployed for combat duty. So it is now going into combat duty. This was done at a speech to newly graduated soldiers. He said, quote, "In the near future, the first launchers of the Sarmat complex and the new heavy missile will go on combat duty." He also stressed the importance of the THAAD. And for those who don't know, the THAAD is the ability to have nuclear forces from both land, sea, or air, all three locations. That, he said, the most important task here is the development of the nuclear THAAD, which is a key guarantee of Russia's military security and global stability. So this, again, this is one of those that can basically reach the United Kingdom in a matter of minutes. I think it's like 6 minutes, 7 minutes. It's not very long. It's super fast based on the speeds it's reported to be able to go. And then, of course, being as large as it is, it can leave a very deadly blast with its capabilities.
And as this is very, very unlikely to happen, obviously many people do not believe it will ever happen. If you look at this from a prepper standpoint of view, the Satan II is one of the scariest missiles out there. Supposedly, this thing could take out a state. It is some of the biggest. Not only can it take out a large area, it actually carries multiple nukes. It's like basically packaging 15 nukes into one missile. And I believe that's how they did it. Essentially, multiple warheads are placed in the tip, and then it launches out and spreads out from there. I believe that's how it is, that it spreads out the warheads. But again, if you know, and if you're an expert on this, let me know. What I do know, though, is it can destroy a whole lot of stuff. They say that this could destroy an area of even a state, or even 2 states or 3 states. If you look at the nuke map that the website has put up, we'll try to attach that to the website. It's a fun site. It's used for, of course, shiz and giggles, but it is kind of scary to look because you can actually take one of the smallest nukes. It will give you a visual representation from the Fat Boy, from one of the first nukes ever done at a couple kilotons or whatever it was, all the way up to the Satan II. And you can see a huge difference. One would take out a city block, one would take out, or a city, one would take out a state, or multiple states. So this thing is scary, and in the 0.0001% chance, and this is in the back of all of our heads, and if you say it's not, then you might be lying, or you're subconsciously lying to yourself, because everybody does have a thought in their back of the head, like, what if this actually did happen? More likely is a tactical nuke that happens in the European conflict that will end up bringing everybody into it, and then a hot war goes on for 4 to 10 years, and the entire structure of the world is changed. That is what I believe will happen. I don't believe that we're going to have a nuclear Armageddon, nor do I believe this is the end of the world. I actually believe that this is the beginning of a new one that no one wants to be in. Again, I think that this is a changing from the very top up, and that this was done through giving more and more and more and more power through these greedy money-hungry companies that have basically formed what they believe the world should be. And these people that have been in charge for probably hundreds of years, slowly kind of put together their own way that they want it to be done. And I'll just let you know, you could say that's crazy, but again, we know that once you get to a certain level up there, these people do not associate themselves with regular people. Every movie you've seen of every single rich person and how snooty they are, imagine that times 100. That's what you get when you get these people. I mean, heck, you just look at how the Bugatti buying process is. You literally have to be picked to buy a Bugatti and go to a special dinner with all of the other people that buy a Bugatti. I mean, that's what these people do. When they have so much money that they've bought everything, they need something to buy, heck, they go spend $250,000 for a 10-hour trip down under. That's what these kind of people do. None of us can relate to that, but again, also think about how they can't relate to us. And they don't believe that we even deserve the air we breathe. And if you've talked to anybody that's up in this rank, they really do think like that. Like we are the stuff that they step in when they accidentally go out in their lawn, and we shouldn't be there. So again, that's just my thought. What is yours? Let me know in the comments down below. As far as the Satan 2, it's a very terrifying thing. I'm a little bit more worried about the one that causes either a tsunami, because that one, they could put it down, really, really low and make it look like some sort of earthquake, something like that. Or I would be more concerned about the new stabilized boom boom that they have talked about. Dex, do you remember the name of that China just stabilized an extremely unstable chemical? What was that, CL20? Is it CL20? Is that it?
Yeah, I believe that's it. Sounds familiar.
CL20 used to be where it's an extremely viable explosive when used right. It was extremely unstable. So say if you did make a boom boom out of this thing, you put it on the back of a truck, you barely hit a pebble, and the truck would leave a crater in the ground like a nuke, right? But they stabilized it. What China did is they say, supposedly, that they've stabilized it so much to where now it's a viable thing that they can actually transport and use. That puts off a nuclear-type explosion without the radiation. Now, if you can imagine nuking a place without leaving 100 years, unaccessible area out of that. That's what that is. I'm more worried about that than I am from a regular nuke. Many people's their strategy. Now this is like them basically, this is what countries do so they have their place. It's all a defensive thing. Like you can't do that because if you do, we'll do this. But nobody's actually pulled the trigger. In the back of our heads, we all think, could this actually happen? And that's why we cover it. But I wouldn't sell your house just yet, but I would have some extra supplies in it. And then President JB calls Chinese President Xi a dictator. This is, by the way, this is kind of funny and kind of ironic considering last week there was a trending hashtag basically calling him one. But we'll talk about that here in a second. Sean Toussaint, thank you so much, and I hope I said that right. Thank you for subscribing. Shira Fong, thank you for subscribing. Terry, thank you for subscribing. And as always, if you do subscribe during the show, I will give you a shout out. Thank you so much. And thank you. Heath Spear from Australia, thank you for the super chat, and thank you for being the first one in the door. I appreciate that, and appreciate you. As far as President JB, this is crazy because they're just yesterday, wasn't it yesterday, Dex, that Blinken said that we weren't going to back up Taiwan and basically was kissing Xi's butt. And now today we have JB essentially saying that he's a dictator.
Yeah, the back and forth. It's exactly what they said. I think it was Monday we were reporting it. It was off of his trip where he got to meet with Xi directly. Blinken came out and said, "Yeah, we support one China policy." And then boom, here we are calling him. The president's going out calling him a dictator, and then even going so far as to say he was embarrassed that Xi was embarrassed by the spy balloon incident. So making more statements about this that just really it's kind of crazy. Like we're going back and forth here.
At the same time, people are talking about how the opponent to Mr. JB is, a lot of people believe that he's being charged because that JB is doing something that is a lot like what he is calling President Xi right here. So it depends on what you believe or what side of the aisle I guess you're on, but most people say either way, whatever side you're on, it's kind of crazy to think that one of the main opponents is getting arrested. If you think about it, how we actually look at the news abroad and how we look at some of the developing countries and some of the bigger countries that are not as rich as the U.S., that have a lot of problems, a lot of corruption, and we see this happen where the other candidate, in fact, I think Russia, Russia, Putin had his candidate, something happened, or they get poisoned, or they get arrested, or they get put in jail, any kind of person against them. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. But remember, try to be nice. And then American missile defense system in South Korea cleared for full deployment despite China's outrage. Now, really think about this. China is supposedly had a spy base since 2019 in Cuba, which we talked about back then. I don't know if this is separate from the one that we thought was Russia, but what if that was and has been China the whole time? Besides that, they just said that they may be in the deal for a training facility there. So a training facility and a spy base in Cuba, about 100 miles off our coast, and now they're about to put THAAD, which is an advanced radar system and air defense system, in South Korea, which will be able to, again, knock things out of the sky if they come from China. Dex, this is doesn't it seem like a tit for tat?
It is, and it's also interesting because they're acknowledging, I guess, some feedback that they have been given from a lot of the service members. Many of them are saying, hey, like, things aren't sticking up to standards anymore. A lot of things are falling behind, and so they're coming out and basically saying, yeah, this is a problem and we don't need to do that. We need to actually make this a priority. And I guess this is a little bit of a change, or contrast this with some of the messaging that we've seen our military over the last year and a half sort of talk about inclusion and other stuff like that, right? And it's never really been about our strength, our power, our capabilities, our technology. And this is definitely, at least putting out in this letter to service members and others, they're basically saying, yeah, we need to hold ourselves accountable. We need to, strive to actually have the highest standards. We can't tolerate anything less than that because we're damaging our credibility. And they're acknowledging the fact that they're seeing it, and they're seeing the fact that we're not doing what we said we used to do.
And, of course, it said a top Air Force leader acknowledged the concerns of many members who have complained of failing standards in the branch, arguing that the problem could lead to the U.S. military falling behind China and Russia. Based on my travels and conversations with airmen of all ranks, I have noticed a common concern regarding standards. Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force Joanne S. Bass wrote in a memorandum to members on Tuesday. History shows that when standards erode, military capabilities and readiness decline. Now, I know many are like, hey, no matter what, we support our military, but the people running it are making some pretty horrible decisions, and that's the opinion I have gained from talking to many active duty military, and definitely many former. Former military are looking at some of the decisions that the military is making, and it's absolutely nuts. So when you go back to this advanced system that they're putting in South Korea, they are putting this radar that can literally look into China. This is a big deal. Now, when we look at all of the different paths that this could be going down, it's very, very confusing because all of us believe something different. We have all been told 50 different stories about how this is actually happening. Many people believe that China and the U.S. are actually secretly in on it, that all of these people are actually part of the same group. But at the same time, there's actions like this. Like, for example, Blinken goes to China and says, we support one China. And then JB, who people really, frankly, believe that he's got, somebody in his pocket, and specifically Xi, he is then saying, he's a dictator and things like this. He also says that he was the one who made two comments saying that we're going to go in there and we're going to stick up for him if they try to take Taiwan. Totally, completely conflicting things. I think that part of this may be to confuse the hell out of people and to purposely cause angst in people and division, and people are just pissed off. I mean, we have our own government basically having conflicting decisions on a daily basis. Meanwhile, there's things that just kind of get brought up to distract us and then go away. Like, nobody's even bringing up the debt ceiling. Like, it's just like things like that just kind of fade away. There's all sorts of things that just fade away into the light. They'll put it to light for a second, and then they'll just turn it off and go, hey, look at this, a bright, flashy sign. As far as having a THAAD system, this is a huge, huge deal if this is going up in South Korea, along with nuclear submarines that are parked in their coastlines. So something seems like it's going on. You could look at this one way and go, holy moly, like China's preparing right outside of our country, and we're preparing right outside of theirs. It looks like they're preparing for a massive exchange. That's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. By the way, thank you, everybody. Bible Talk. Thank you, Tennessee Mountain Girl. How are you doing? And then Comet Moon, thank you, over on D-Live. Hey, Scooby-Doo-Right. I was happy to see that you made the hero board there. Kimbria, Blonderella, Beer Juice, Jade the Jeweler, Yobi, thank you so much. Moxie, Skyhouse, and, of course, Ecto1, thank you, guys. And then Moxie, thank you. And Moxie, thank you for gifting out badges over on D-Live. Jay the Jeweler, thank you as well. And Beer Juice, thank you for gifting out badges over on D-Live. Thank you, guys. And then Tim and Bill, thank you for subscribing. And 906205, thank you so much for subscribing as well. Nice to see you guys here. And then we have Explosion Rocks Paris American Academy, an international arts and design school in French capital. At least 24 have perished. This might be updated by the time you see this. Again, they said it was a huge explosion.
Injured.
Oh, injured. So nobody perished.
I think the number's in the 30s now, but I've not heard of anyone perishing yet.
Okay, well, so I wonder how that happened. So if all of those people got injured but did not die, a building in central Paris housing an arts and design school catering mainly to international students was partially destroyed in a violent blast on Wednesday afternoon. At least 24 people were injured, 4 of them seriously, according to the latest casualty figures released at 7:10 p.m. I always, and every time I see casualty, I think of death. But again, I guess, so these are injured. And it says Paris Police Chief Laurent Nunez told a press briefing that the blast took place in a building at 277 Rue Saint-Jacques in 5th Arrondissement. I can't say that. At 4:55 p.m. Local time. And it said that the address is home to the Paris American Academy. According to its website, the private institution is a bilingual design school offering courses in fashion, interior design, arts, and creative writing. Most of its students are international, with many hailing from the U.S. So one thing I wonder is who's on that list? Who was going to school there? Is this some very uppity, very fancy place that possibly the son or the daughter of somebody extremely, high up was going there? Or was this just a, some sort of gas leakage or something happened? I bet you either way, we'll probably hear, some sort of thing happened here. Eyewitness told French news channel BFM TV that the blast caused the facade to collapse and was followed by a ball of fire inside the building. Footage shot shortly after the explosion showed the collapsed building enveloped in smoke and flames. BFM TV said that people in the neighborhood told its reporters that they had smelt a strong gas odor prior to the explosion, giving rise to the suggestion that it was caused by a gas leak. There has been no official confirmation if that's actually what it was. And then the first U.S. deep water port for the Arctic to host military cruise ships. Dex, I'm actually going to have you cover the deep water port. But before you do, I do want to remind you, if you want to get backup power, go over and check out Inergy. You can get a solar generator that can actually be expanded up to 96 battery. It's modular, so you can actually change the overall function of it. And it's silent, which means you can go gray as far as being silent. Nobody from 3 blocks away is going to hear it. It does not take gas. You can either charge it via the wall, or you can charge it via solar panels. Now, if you get a package with solar panels, you'll be set. You'll have unlimited power as long as you have the sun rise the next day. You can actually charge it up on a sunny day and then keep it for when you need it. and have that power on demand. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. This is one of the best. Again, this is a great generator, and many people should go and check it out. They also have the new Tactical, which was designed by the Air Force Research Laboratory, and of course, so the military and Energy actually teamed up on the Tactical. That is their new one, and if you do want to get that, I believe if you do a pre-order, you will actually get an extra discount on that because it's going to be cheaper for the first people that get it. That one has built-in heaters to the batteries for extreme colds, and of course it has water, dust resistant, and a reinforced steel frame and 1,500-pound locks on the how the batteries connect. So really cool. This thing could fall off a truck and still go. So marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle, not only to help us and support us, but you will also get a discount as well. Dex, the underwater ports for the Arctic to host military cruise ships.
Yeah, this is a new thing in the Arctic area. As you know, the Arctic has been very important to both China and Russia. They've spent a lot of time investing up there, both in militarily as well as in potential trade routes as the ice areas are shifting and changing and opening up waterways. What is happening here is they're now putting in a deep water port in Nome. Nome is the very northern point at the top of Alaska, or close to that area, which obviously is right there by the Arctic. So by doing this, we're going to be able to accommodate very large ships, military-sized ships, cruise ships that, if you think about a cruise ship, about the size that'll hold around 3,500 to 4,000 passengers. That's about the size that'll actually be able to get into this area. At first, it's only going to have a few capabilities for docking, a handful of ships at a time, but they're expecting to expand that to about 9. So this is, I guess, a significant investment from our point of view, as far as our investment into the Arctic. It's, we're sort of playing catch up in many ways, because we've seen how much more, especially Russia has done in the Arctic. So this is one of those ways that we're going to be able to start moving and getting bigger military ships up there. Not that we couldn't do it now, but having a port where they can dock, they can refuel, they can, get provisions, things like that, makes it a lot easier than it does today when they don't have a port. There's nowhere to go up there. They have to come back down southward from that location. So interesting news, but again, it's a significant investment that we're making, and I think it is something that is important for us to keep in mind on as it relates to what our adversaries are doing in that location as well.
For you, anybody that was either former or active Navy, what do you think that they're doing this for? Is this going to become a massive, port and have a ton of military ships there, or do you think it's just going to be for commercial purposes? Obviously, they will be able to accommodate military ships. Is this something to do with Russia and everything else that's going on? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And this is kind of interesting. So, first of all, I didn't know, Dex, we talked about this movie Oppenheimer earlier. Christopher Nolan, of course, did the Batman movies like The Dark Knight. I think he did the trilogy. I don't know if he only did The Dark Knight Rises, but he also did Interstellar. Now, I was talking about Interstellar the other day. Now, Interstellar had so many things in it. If you wanted to go down a rabbit hole, go down, watch the video that was done that breaks down even just the bookcase in Interstellar. If you've seen Interstellar, then you might know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil anything, but Interstellar was a 2014 movie with, what's his face? All right. You know, that guy. I don't know why I'm not thinking. Matthew McConaughey. Actually, one of the best movies I've seen. I don't know if there's any crazy symbology that makes it evil or whatever, but I do know that there's symbology, tons of it, crazy. They have this bookcase in the movie, and every book has some sort of other connection in the movie. They have every title of the book actually has some sort of thing into the meaning of it. They also, in that movie, to show a black hole, like temporal displacement thing, they actually took each frame, and I forget what they said. It was like each frame of this movie, of the space scenes, was actually rendered and every little pixel was rendered in this thing. Like it took like days or like 3 years to render this one scene, because each scene was done, and each pixel, like if you zoomed in and actually kept zooming in and zooming in and zooming in, sort of like how they show the NFTs where you just keep zooming in, that you could, that it was actually as big as they showed. Like you could zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and actually see stars off into the far end and whatever else. It's insane what they did, because they wanted to make it as scientifically accurate to what this thing was going to be like. One of the people that was involved in the movie actually went to college for 4 years before it so they could do this thing, something like that. And I think it was one of the Nolan, the brothers or something. But they had all of this symbology in it, down to the point where one scene, they have the music and a ticking. And each time that you hear this ticking sound, because they're on another planet, and every second that they're down on this planet, it equals 7 days on Earth. So they stop by for basically an hour on this planet that's all water, and they are sitting there, and the music has a tick, tick, tick. And every time you hear that, you subconsciously think that's 1 day or 7 days on Earth. And what's funny is people don't even know this during the movie, but it makes you anxious, and it makes you realize like that their kids on Earth are aging. The hour that they're there, they age 30 years. So every second that they're there matters, and their things are screwing up, and they don't, it's absolutely wondrous. And then this movie comes along. They're talking about Oppenheimer, and the first people that have seen it are saying that they were devastated and they can't speak after they've watched it. They say it's a kind of horror movie, and it's supposedly about the guy Oppenheimer, who worked on the nuclear bomb. Dex, so what did you think when you saw this?
Well, they've adopted the movie from a book that was written as a biography. It's called American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer. That is what they used to make the movie. Now, what's interesting is, a lot of history around him, and there's a lot of things that he wanted to say and talk about, but he didn't, because he was a scientist, but he was also a scientist involved in creating something that he probably didn't want to create, or at least had a lot of angst about what it was you were creating. I mean, imagine you are the person who creates and invents the nuclear bomb. That's a significant weight to sort of carry for the rest of your life. But they say that it sort of goes through about his experience, about how he went, to make this, what it would be like to live through the atomic age, living with McCarthyism, living with, the whole notion of being a scientist in this time when they were having to make these things. And I guess it's going to be an interesting perspective. I know we don't talk, this is an interesting subject to what we talk about, because it's also related to nukes, but it's also, I guess in some regards, it's interesting to see how this gets portrayed. And we don't know. Nobody's seen it yet, except for the handful of people that have had this pre-screening. And a lot of them are coming out going, wow, it was really, really intense. Like, it wasn't just a documentary. It wasn't just an interesting movie about a person. It left them, some of them speechless, and some of them said, hey, it's almost like a horror movie.
And I wonder what, because of the previous, and once I realized how much little hidden things were in Interstellar, it makes me wonder. And again, if Christopher Nolan wasn't, I believe he did do, but was he the reason why that movie was crazy, or was it the director and he was a producer or something? It makes me wonder if there's going to be some sort of connection to real life. The thing is many of us, and I mean many of us in this community, believe that there are a lot of connections between Hollywood, the movies, and real life, and things that are to come, predictive programming and things like this. I just wonder what this movie is going to be like. I am most likely going to see it, just because it is involving this kind of stuff, but. And then ex-CNN producer sentenced to more than 19 years, which is actually not enough once you find out, for luring 9-year-old into acts of you-know-what. This is horrendous, And I'm not surprised if you have ever gone down the rabbit hole of like Nickelodeon or Disney or any of these other big, huge channels and their production companies. Everything Hollywood is just disgusting, in my opinion. But it says a former CNN television producer who had pleaded guilty to luring 9-year-olds into illegal acts, just period, was sentenced Tuesday to more than 19 years in prison. They say more than 19, right? Unfortunately, usually, and then it says 15 years of supervised release. Why is he even getting out? I'm sorry. I don't believe this person should get out. I think this is the one thing that I don't really bend on. It's like, if you do this, then you're just gone, and you shouldn't be around people. You should be in a cell for the rest of your life. Especially preying on minors and children. This is horrific. John Griffin of Stamford, Connecticut, pleaded guilty in federal court in December using interstate commerce to entice and coerce the girls to engage in activity at his Vermont ski house. This is somebody who was in charge of things at CNN. What do you want to bet that a lot of these people do this? And it's not just on that end. It's Fox News, MSNBC, all these people that are connected with extremely high people. It's just freaky. When I just wonder psychologically, what makes it the very top % of people that do the nastiest things like this? And what makes it, is it acceptable at that level? Do people know about this? We found out so many times when these big rich people get busted, like Weinstein and all these people, when stuff happens and afterwards, years later, everybody says, oh yeah, we all knew. The Nickelodeon people and all the people at these different things, oh, we all knew. What kind of human beings are this that they know this is going on and don't do anything? Like Leonardo DiCaprio, that kid. You want to know like why people are the way that they are? Look at the past of some of those kids that went through Nickelodeon and Disney. Why is what's her face constantly shaving her head and going running out in the street? I don't wonder why. I know why. Amanda Bynes, she was just in the news the other day again, doing something crazy. Pleading for help. Britney Spears. That's So Raven, the guy from That's So Raven too. Like all these kids are just absolutely messed up. Justin Timberlake has issues that are coming out. It's just nuts. And then heed Truman's call to rein in the CIA. This is trippy. So after JFK was taken out, not a lot of people. This was kind of crazy how this came about. People started talking about this thing that Truman said after JFK got taken out. Dex, what did Truman say that people are now reminding people about right now?
Yeah, so this is very interesting. It's kind of let's take a step back, blast from the past. You may or may not know this, but let's talk about it. It's really interesting. So in September 18th, 1947, President Harry S. Truman signed the National Security Act into law, of this National Security Act of 1947 into law. That created the CIA. Later, let's fast forward 30 days after JFK was taken out, he penned an op-ed in the Washington Post. And here's a couple of the specific quotes that are really important here. He said, there is something about the way the agency has been functioning that is casting a shadow over our historic position, and I feel that we need to correct it. He also said they need to limit their role to just intelligence. And in the piece, he was arguing that the intelligence agency had been diverted from its original assignment, being an intelligent collection and analysis, and it had become operational and at times policy-making arm of the government. So in other words, he was acknowledging that it was doing far more than what he originally signed them up to do. He originally signed them up to just look at intelligence, analyze it, and then supply it back to the rest of the government to act upon it. And he's saying like they're doing stuff and making their own decisions now. So it's interesting just to roll back in time and listen to a president who actually created this, or he didn't actually create it himself, but he signed it in. I'm sure it was created by others, but he signed it in. then taking this position just 30 days after that. So a little bit of a blast from the past, but it's even relevant today, I think, when we think about what is sort of assumed is happening with our intelligence agency, whether it's inside our own country or outside our own country, influencing other governments or completely taking out other leaderships, things like that. All of that stuff it sort of rings true when you will go back to the words of, say, Harry S. Truman back on 1963 in a Washington Post article.
And when you think about that's why we cover the CIA leader, the guy who's currently in charge. By the way, whoever is the current leader of the CIA, that person isn't making the decisions. That person's kind of like the president of the CIA, whereas the people above the CIA that are most likely connected in all these weird ways, bones and bone clubs and all of this stuff, these guys then have him go to these places. We've covered that he has traveled to all of these different places, and then magically, like within a month, some crazy stuff goes down. We've noticed this pattern, and it's like CIA would be the one that would, have 20 secret agents go in and take out a leader, and literally, I mean, they have done things where they have literally changed the regimes of countries, where they take out the king or the leader or the prince or whatever and replace them. They cause and sow division, not only in other countries, but in our own. I mean, like, it's crazy to look back and see this. It really is. By the way, Woman of Wonder, I am so sorry to hear that. Says, fam, can you please send prayers or good vibes to my dear mama who is undergoing the Red Devil chemo treatment and is in the ER this evening. Now, Woman of Wonder, and you also went through cancer and beat it. I am so hoping that your mother, and I'm praying that your mother does the same. As you know, especially with my friend Link, it was really, really rough going through chemo for him. He was not one of the lucky ones because his was so advanced. But I do know other folks that have gotten through it because they caught it early enough. But he had esophageal, and then it went to his liver, and then once it went to his liver, they knew it had metastasized. It was a whole mess up. In fact, I think he would have had a chance if they didn't screw up and think that whatever was on his liver was a gallstone or something. But I watched, and I took him to every doctor's appointment for those, so I know what you may be going through. I don't know if you're taking her to those, and it's just really rough. He was in so much pain. They gave him a liquid bottle. It looked like a half gallon of liquor, but it was Vicodin. It was liquid Vicodin because he couldn't swallow. I mean, he could chug that thing and be normal because he was in so much pain. It was so stressful. I am praying for you, and I'm praying for your mom, but I'm especially praying for you to be able to have the strength to deal with that. And I'm so sorry that she is going through that. But I have faith that everything is going to go okay, and I really, really hope that everything happens like it should. And then Uncommon News 777 says CIA got the funding for the first operation from Wall Street. I'll just assume that's true, but again, I would have to look that up. But I am not surprised by that one bit. And if you look at all of the stuff that has come out, we still don't know what exactly happened to JFK, but I did think it was interesting. 30 days after JFK gets clocked out there, now fast forward 30 days later, he's saying this, but back then there was nothing out about it, and everybody's grieving still. But now fast forward, knowing how much CIA was involved in that stuff, and more came out, and the more we see, the more and more we're like, hey, CIA had something to do with it. Was he also talking about how they were getting involved in changing the world structure? It seems like it's really close to the JFK thing to not be. All right, and then again, today is a super short show. Wednesdays are usually going to follow that. We're trying to get down to schedule. I have a solid schedule at my work, so most likely we're going to have a somewhat of a more solid schedule. As you guys know, we don't have a schedule, and we set it that way on purpose. So then you guys aren't. So then, if it's 7 and something changes in my life, then you're not here. So we're getting closer to that point. We've been at that point before, and then it went away. So you guys have to understand I'm a regular person, and I have a family, and it's really hard. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us, and we don't have a full staff or anything. We have myself, Dex, and a team of really awesome mods that help us with the community, but that's it. So thank you guys for being patient with that. But what's great, and this is really great, is we are putting out more content, and we are making more moves forward than we ever have before. So thank you guys for being patient through that. Dex, let's go through the web only, and let's go over some of that crazy stuff.
Absolutely. Lots going on over there. So go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you to this webpage that Adam's showing you here on the screen. As you scroll down, you'll pass all the content we just talked about, all the sources for everything we talked about. Hit this yellow bar called Overflow. This is where the rest of the story is. So lots happening here in we got a little bit of the updates in the political space. I think one of the biggest things is which judge is going to be dealing with the current president's son's case that was just, I guess it's sort of a plea deal that's going through. That's happening. Of course, there's all the updates with T-Man and DeSantis and what's happening there. Hey, an interesting article about Discord, and they're talking about how there's a lot of predators on there. So if you want to see what's happening there, especially going after teens and kind of going back to that story we talked about with CNN, that's there. So they're going to be using AI to clone John McEnroe, so they can use him in some commentary for, I guess, Wimbledon. So, and now they're also saying robot judges are about to replace humans. We've talked about that before, but there's another article about it. So if you're interested in that, it's there. We do have some updates on what's going on around UKR, what's going on, additional commentary from Putin and others in that space. All of that is there in greater depth, to be quite honest. There's quite a bit of updates there, but nothing that's too extremely out of the ordinary, but it's definitely worth looking at if you want to know like where they've set up defense fortifications, which we've talked about before. Some interesting videos that are there too, as well. Especially hot off. If you didn't see those videos from last night, you should definitely go to the website and click last night's show and see some of those videos we posted on there as well. So, an interesting opinion piece about Xi Jinping humiliating the U.S. is what they're saying. And then another interesting piece about saying, and it's again another opinion piece coming out of Time, that India is not really a U.S. ally. And that's one of the questions we've asked quite often when we talk about them, because they always seem to be fence sitting and going back and forth. So, hey, all of that and so much more, it's all right there on our website. We put it together for you every night. Just click the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
And this is Time that is saying this, right? I have said this, and I got so many comments after the first time I said that. They were like, of course they are, and they hate China. But they've been doing drills with Russia, with China right beside them. So even if they're the third wheel on this date where they just don't like the other guy, they're still going on that date, and they're still going to the movie together, and they're still drilling, and they still have this area that they're fighting over. But what if China one day, and really takes a hit, says, you have this area that we've been fighting over for however many years. You just have it. You take it. Tibet, go ahead. Himalayas, all yours. And they go, but we want your help with this. And you'll get a seat at the table. We're taking over, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And by the way, somebody asked earlier about the protection bags. I haven't talked about them, but I did get actually one recently, so I don't know if you guys have seen these. Somebody asked, how do you protect yourself from your phone? These are off-grid bags. This is actually one of the newer ones. This actually has a really, really awesome clip on it. So this is one of the off-grid bags. This one's cool because when you put your phone in it, this can protect you not only from your phone, but protect your phone from everything else. So this one I thought was really cool because when you put it in there, and you can put it on your belt or you can put it on your bag or whatever else, once you close this, there's no signals going in or out. There's no radiation coming from your phone. So if you want to put this by your nightstand, you can. And then if you do want to put it around your belt or something, you can. And then when you pull this, it actually pulls your phone out. So I thought that was really, really cool. The other one of the problems with the one I had, the first iterations of it, it was really hard to get your phone in and out. So that kind of fixes it. It actually pulls your phone out. And then when you put your phone back in, it actually puts it back in. Anyways, this is really cool. This is from Off Grid. They used to make bags for like evidence bags and things like that, so nobody could hack a laptop from outside of the place. And then once it's closed, nobody is tracking or tracing you. This is Off Grid, so it feels like a Kevlar vest. I don't think that's what it's actually made of, but it is really, really nice. We have a link, marfooglenews.com/offgrid. And you can use the code Marfoogle. There's also duffel bags that are essentially Faraday bags. There's key fob holders, which I got one of those a little bit ago, and that is really cool too. So nobody can hack your key. But yeah, and then make sure to go over to the website. We have tons of great stuff over there. Thank your mods. Drop an M in the chat. Really appreciate that. Peter Krukowski has become a member and said, I really like your songs. You are quite talented. Hey, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And God bless you, Woman of Wonder. And you guys are just, I really hope that you have a lot of good things coming your way, because I know you've been through a rough couple years. Thank you, and thank you. Love you guys. Dex, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Now, we're going to do a Spaces, but it looks like we're going to move that back to next week. A couple of the guests that we were going to have had some schedule misnomers, so we're going to wait and do that. When we do the Spaces, I definitely want everybody to pop in. We could do one later this week, or even on a Saturday. So let me know in the comments down below if you liked the last Spaces that we did over on Twitter. Let me know. And then also let me know who should we get and try to have speak on our Spaces. Let me know in the comments down below, and love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
Yeah, everybody gonna go get supply. Nukes on the doorstep, now they forget. Everybody gonna go oh yeah. Everybody gonna go get supply. Nukes on the doorstep, now they forget. Everybody gonna go oh yeah. Everybody gonna go get supply. Nukes on the doorstep, now they forget. Everybody gonna go oh yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. I said boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. I say, oh no, no, I know no back now. I said the ring on the beat, I go out. I took Pete Gorkowski. I'm on no out eat, I'm back now. Oh, we. I did Romeo on the one back, woman on the one that bringing on the bed now. Hey, from down under. He's spear from Australia. She on the phone in the Michigan. Bubble tag on the 777. You are so in back to heaven. My town, bringing on back. I do it on this and I do it on that. Everybody gonna go get supply. No on the doors, yeah. Now they boom, boom, boom. I said boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. We were unwelcome down. I say, I be. I got that getting some for Carol and the one and no banter ABC in the Interstellar Roman North. I hope, oh now we pop on the top and the tribute on the trap bar. Cherokee survival, great live stream, great from Mars. Battle on the ready and the truth I risk. Everybody go now, let's say this. James Wright, bring it on live, bring it on back now, do it all night. Hey, are we the commit moon? Hey, are we the commit moon? level of on the rumble. Hello, hey, thank you for the show. Hey, are we the lady? Yeah, bring it down and also swear. Joy taking on great videos. Much lovely Lisa. Miss you and a rip girl. I take a lot on back now. Wait.
Let's do a fresh one.